Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. Coming to you live here from Gen Con 2018, bringing you live board game coverage all week long. Kicking off the coverage today with Luke from Portal Games. How you doing today, Luke?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
So, Luke, you brought something interesting to the table here today. Got a glimpse of this when we were at Dice Tower Con, and I saw a room full of people
Yeah.
demoing this. So I'm kind of curious as to what we've got here.
Yeah, it was incredible. What you saw at Dice Tower Con was people playing Detective, a modern crime board game. And what we're having is we had three separate tables of running Case 6, which is a special demo case we designed, of Detective, which is a new cooperative campaign criminal investigation type game.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, what we have is a game that is completely story driven, completely focused on the experience, completely focused on the immersion, and with minimal rules and minimal components that interferes with that. The game is extremely simple to learn. There's really only three core rules. And I can go over that a little bit more later.
Hmm.
But basically, it is a game where you have a deck of cards as your primary storytelling element, and these are your leads. These are the witnesses, the crime scenes. This is the forensic evidence. This is all of the ways you can go out to get information about the crime and about maybe what's going on in the scene and the surroundings. We also, with this game, which I didn't have a laptop to demonstrate, but we have an online database that we put together.
Okay.
So that database functions as this fictional Antares agency database, which players can actually access to pull up surveillance information, questionings, files, police reports.
So it's like a companion extension to the game
Yeah,
that adds on
yeah,
to it then?
yeah. So basically, this is a campaign game where there are five separate cases, 35 leads in each deck of cards, and there are five decks total in the game.
Hmm.
So uh, they're separate cases, but they're all building to one meta plot.
Okay.
So the database is there not only for you to find information, but there's also anything you search into the database is going to grow and aggregate as the information you have collected up till now. So
Hmm.
any DNA signatures you put in there, you're going to have for the whole campaign. And as you progress, different things might start revealing themselves.
So I'm assuming that this online database is a required aspect of the game, so it,
Yeah.
it tags along with it as
To,
well then.
to make a game so focused on immersion, to have police reports and video surveillance and recordings and suspect files, all of these different things, you to put all that in a box is hard. And really,
Hmm.
to make people feel like they are a detective, something like that has to exist. And
It's a
even
really clever immersion tool, though, to take that element that so it's not in the box and you're moving it externally, but to keep it within the theme of the game of you're searching
Mhm.
through the database. That's a
Yeah,
really cool trick to do that.
yeah, and we've had a lot of people who are they prefer analog. So
Hmm.
anytime there's an online component or an app-driven component, they're slightly wary of that.
Hmm.
And we've had them play this game, and they were blown away. And they said it wasn't there to drive the game; it was just a supplement to make the immersion greater. And you're in there, you're pulling up suspect files, you're reading questionings, you're entering DNA that you found in one scene of the crime, and entering a fingerprint signature you find on another scene of the crime, and try to match evidence. It's really there to help you explore the story and explore the game. And with the game, so you all play as either investigators
Hmm.
or consultants.
So I could actually show these off a
Sure.
little bit closer. So I'm going to take the blue one because unfortunately the
Yep.
green will be a little see-through there. This is a little bit too,
Perfect.
but
And so Mia Roberts, she has a special ability, which you can see right here. And she also has a skill token. So
okay.
every investigator will have something they're particularly good at. Mia right now is actually good at questioning. So with certain lead cards, say you're interrogating a suspect, you might have an option to use a questioning skill token to dig a little bit deeper into the lead and push that suspect further, press him, try to get something more out of him.
Interrogate him a little bit.
If you feel that maybe he has more to say. So that's where these skill tokens come in. And you also have these abilities that use authority tokens, which you accumulate throughout the game. If you're on the right track, then
Okay.
you'll earn authority tokens. So basically, you play as you have these investigators, you have consultants that are the characters that haven't been chosen if you're playing with less than 5 players, and these will just give you these skill tokens, but you'll get a little bit more of them.
Okay.
So let's move over to the board.
So you're saying that these are supplementary characters if you're playing with a larger amount of people
Less.
within the game?
So
oh,
the
less
game
people
goes
in
up
the
to
game.
5 players, and if you're playing with 5, everybody will be an investigator. But if you're playing with 4, then you'll flip one investigator to its consultant side, which is the back side.
Oh, they're dual-sided.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So basically, in this game, if we want to, we can move that out there. I don't
Sure.
know if
Well,
we
I could switch over to
Perfect.
this view right here.
So in this game, basically, there's really simple rule sets. The only rules are determining how you follow leads, how you go through this deck and pull up leads, how you manage your time, and how you move around the locations. So you have a time track and you have a day track. So for example, case 1 might be 4 hours. So you have 4 hours, and you have regular working hours, and you have overtime hours. Every hour of overtime accumulates stress tokens, and a case will have a certain stress limit that you can't cross over. So you're also traveling to different locations. So you start the game at your headquarters, and you can potentially go to Richmond PD to pull up archives of a really old case that might be related. You can go to the courthouse to get a judge to approve of a permit, a warrant, anything like that. You go to the field to potentially go interrogate suspects or go to the lab to analyze evidence. All of this takes time. And leads also at different locations take time. Going to the lab usually takes longer than going to the courthouse. Doing things at Antares headquarters is usually quicker because you have access to all of the cool things that, all the high-tech things that Antares has at its disposal. So you're managing time. You're trying to really deduce what leads are most valuable to you. And the game is not easy. And you really have to work hard because in all playtests, out of these 35 cards, players will most often go through only about 17 to 20.
Oh, really?
So there's many different paths to take, but you really have to decide if you can't go down a rabbit hole because there might be a lot of red herrings. So you can't say, pursue one lead and then go to the lead that it takes you to and then go follow that even further because you might have spent 5 or 6 hours of your day and at the end you get to something that you find out is a dead end. So it really takes deduction to determine, all right, is this worth my time? Is this getting me the information I want to solve this case? Should I back out and pursue another lead? Should I maybe go to the autopsy? Should I maybe go to the lab and take the evidence there? So the game really is about deduction.
And can you reach then dead ends going down these multiple different paths, or is the game kind of on rails to assist you get to the same end goal?
No,
there?
the game is not on rails. The comparisons we've had to Time Stories and to Sherlock Holmes is one thing that keeps coming up is that this game does not guide you. It's more everything is there that you need, and players have. In cases that players have lost, they were not upset because they felt like they didn't lose because of the game. They lost because, man, we shouldn't have done that. We should have known that, yeah, that actually, we went by our gut intuition, but really there were more important pieces of evidence on the table. So the game has multiple paths to get your information, but there's no one card that says this is the answer.
Gotcha.
You're going to have to use deduction from little bits of pieces of clues that are spread throughout the case and things that somebody says or things that you find. And so there's 5 cases. All of the cases have different mechanics. Each case will take about 2 to 3 hours to play.
Okay.
And there's 5 cases total. So
you're looking at like 10 to 15 hours of content within the box.
And depending on how you play. If you sit down with a group that really wants to dig into the story, be deductive, we've had groups play 5 hours for one case.
Oh, wow.
We've had groups that pause case 1, they take a lot of good notes, they pause the case, and then they continue on another night. But this is a game night experience, and this is one of those games, for us when we play tested it, we dimmed the lights, had one overhead spotlight, we made some strong coffee, we put on some 40s jazz noir in the background, and we got lost in the story and the experience, and that's what we're seeing as far as the reception from this game now.
That's really cool.
It really does a great job of teleporting you and making you feel like a detective. And it's not an easy game, but it's really rewarding when you spend the time and you take the notes and you catch that one little thing that somebody said and you look for your notes and you cross-reference that with some information. And one thing I didn't mention is that in this game you will be breaking the fourth wall. So we do have players go on Wikipedia, go on Google Maps, try to pinpoint locations, try to verify alibis. If somebody says I was here at this time and then I was there at that time, go on Google Maps, see how long it would take to drive that distance.
So this is using all real world data.
The game is set in the real world in real historical events, but the story is fictional. The story was written by an extremely talented Polish writer, and then it was translated into English with a huge team of editors that we had here to work on the game. And so the story is deep and immersive, and it's set in the real world. So this story is set in Richmond. So you'll see Richmond PD, and the locations in the game are in Richmond. It is a fictional story, but there are, there are components of the story that are set in the real world. So you'll be looking up the type of gun that was used, and if that matches why this person would have that gun, or you will be looking up some event on Wikipedia or going
That's
on Google
so
Maps.
crazy that it's rooted in reality.
Yeah.
So that way you really have to do some digging and do some homework. But then even like if you're familiar with these sorts of things, your previous knowledge is actually going to help you play the game. That's kind of a really unique and cool aspect to it as well.
Yeah, it's the players who have played this game have really, the feedback has been that they haven't played anything quite like it. There's been comparisons to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and to Time Stories, and sure, this game is similar to those because they have a lot of similarities with the style of play, but it does something special. The way it makes you feel and the way how it gives you control over this story is really unique. So I don't know if we'll be able to see this, but over here is just a quick guide that comes with the game, and this does have some images of what you can expect to see on the database.
Oh, so it's like how to use the database.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not. It's here, but it's a good example of actually showing the images of what players can expect the database to look like. Really sleek, really cool database. When we were playing this game, it was just a simple white backdrop. But once this finally went live, it
got polished and everything. Yeah,
and it's live now. Players can go on AntaresDatabase.com and they'll be able to actually register, and they won't be able to play the game because they won't have all the components and all this, but they can at least kind of see what it looks like and get a feel for that.
So speaking of being able to play the game, where are people going to be able to find Detective?
So Detective is, we're selling it here at Gen Con. There are going to be demos ran at the Portal Games booth, 1850. We're also having a launch event, so 100 people are going to be playing Detective on 20 tables. That's all sold out, unfortunately, but you guys can still come by the booth, just see the game there, have Ignaz to tell you all about it, and you can buy it as long as we still have some in stock. We try to anticipate how many people would want this game, so we think we brought enough, but it might be the case that by the second or third day we'll be sold out. So I'd say the sooner the better.
So it's available here at Gen Con, and then after the fact, where can we find
8th
this game? August 8th. Okay.
Is the street date. So go to your retailer if you're not at Gen Con. Make sure that they're getting it on the street date, and then you guys will be able to sit around and try to solve some cases.
Very good. I know we're very big proponents of going to your friendly local game store here at Twist Gaming, so go bug them to get Detective in stock so you could buy it from them.
Yes.
So another question I have for you is, I think you said this supports up to 5 players. How many does it scale down to? Does it scale down to a solo variant?
So we've had a lot of discussions on that on BGG, and the thing is, you can absolutely play this game solo. Where this game shines is with people discussing, and we've had some feedback from reviewers that play this game, said this is all great, these boards and these components, but this isn't the game. The game is in our heads. The game is our discussion and our talking and trying to figure out the motives and the cause. The game is all up in the head, is what we heard. So the game really shines when you have a group of people you can communicate with and collaborate with and work together, but it absolutely can be played alone. It's just a lot of information, so that person needs to be taking good notes and really focusing on the smallest details, because obviously when you have a group sitting around the room, somebody's going to remember something that somebody else might have missed.
Absolutely. So I'm picturing in my head kind of the crazy, like, aloof detective that's got the board with the spiderweb yarn strings going to everything, trying to play the game by themselves.
Did you see at TowerCon that we had the whiteboard?
I did.
Yeah,
I did see that.
That was awesome. People were there drawing mind maps. We actually
That's
recommend,
so cool.
if you, in the rule book here, and I don't know if I can, we actually make a suggestion that everyone makes a mind map. And the rule book will say again and again, take good notes. I think there's 7 places in it says take good notes, take good notes. But there's a lot of information. It really is, you do feel like you're a detective. You have to remember names. You have to remember how tall was that gentleman? What were the qualities? What were the statistics on that? What was the date? What were the times? Very fine details. But to have an immersive experience like this, that's what you need. So
It's very cool because it seems to almost have a role-playing element to it by immersing yourself in it to take all these notes and really play the role of the detective. But since it's all rooted in reality, it makes it so you don't really think you're playing a role. I feel like it's very easy to jump into it and get immersed, with that being that it's rooted in the real world.
We've heard that a lot. That it is. We've had one player stand up from Dice Tower, from a demo at Dice Tower Con, and he was talking to his friend. He said, "Man, I really like that. I don't know why." And his friend, because it's a role playing game basically, and that turns out that friend doesn't play board games. He just plays role playing.
Oh, that's funny.
So and his friend kind of said, "I'll come in and play," and he loved it. And the thing is, this is also a game that you can play with your mother-in-law. Anyone who loves CSI, anyone who loves those types of criminal dramas or criminal stories or crime novels, they can sit down and they can just participate. They can play. It's really hard to alpha game this and quarterback this game because there's so much information, and everyone we recommend in the rulebook has different roles. So somebody should be the techie, someone should be on the database, on the archive, somebody should be on Wikipedia, on Google Maps, checking information. People are going to be taking notes, someone's going to be the narrator, reading cards. Everyone's got roles that they can fulfill and work together as a team. And we have not seen situations where people are sitting quietly while one person is talking. You can't have that in a game like this.
Right.
You have to communicate and you have to work together. And there's just a lot of information. So
you kind of need to divvy it up, otherwise it's kind of overwhelming for fewer number of people.
Sure.
I could say.
There's a lot of meat in this game. So.
Very cool. So I got to ask, have you had any real detectives play the game?
Yes, we have.
So what's the reception there like?
The funny thing about that is we actually, after the gathering of friends, Ignace came back. He met Stephen Bonacore at the gathering, and he handed him the box, and then Stephen handed it off to me because we live in roughly the same area, and he said, I need to play this. I need to play this. So a little bit later, a few weeks later, we actually went over to his place to play this game so he can give it a shot. And the other couple he invited, actually one of them, the gentleman was a detective.
Oh, that's so funny.
And we didn't know that until he started playing. And afterwards, he just said, "Man, I feel like I need to put in a slip. This was I feel like I need to put in overtime." But this was so much fun. And
did his stress levels go up, or?
You know what? It showed that he was a detective. They were on it. We were, me and my wife were there observing them and just kind of teaching them the demo and just kind of pretty much teaching them the game, which was over in 5 minutes, and they were off and running. But there's always these things that people pay attention to and kind of get caught up on that might not be the appropriate direction. And
Gotcha.
Man, he was like, nope, that's a distraction. You see, no, not that. We're going over here. We're doing it. So he was so on it, and it shows that that deduction was there. But he loved it. The database really put it together for him. He said with that database, he felt like he was doing real detective work because he was going and looking up suspect information, looking up their signatures, looking at their height and their information, their background, and looking at the images and seeing, oh, I see that marking that we were looking out for and things like that. So yeah, he played it, he loved it, and on Board Game Geek, there's been a few people who marked this on their wish list saying, "I'm a detective, I need this game." So yeah.
I'm sure that's got to bring a really nice sense of validation back as well when you have a person who basically it's their job to do this, and they say this is like my job in a good way.
Yeah, it's maybe less stressful because
it's hopefully.
Hopefully. But we're excited. It's so far the feedback has been phenomenal, and we just hope players enjoy the game, that they love the game, that it's an experience that they have not had before, and that gives us all the more reason to continue producing more content. Because for a game like this, once you have the base components, it's easy enough to just modulate this and expand it and create more stories and ask more really good writers to make content for this. So we're hoping that the players like it and that there's that demand.
I can see the database really expanding and becoming a monster over time. Yeah.
It's taking up already a lot of space on our servers. So that's okay.
So I have to ask, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to touch on about Detective that you wanted to talk about today? Maybe what's some of your favorite aspects of the game that we haven't focused on?
Favorite aspects of the game. I mean, I think it really just when we were playing this game and there's so much I can't say without spoiling it. But when we were playing this game, we thought we were on the wrong track. We thought we were going in a completely wrong direction and the case was going to be lost. But then we managed to find some new pieces of information that put some clues together that potentially that validated one of our theories and kind of led us down another path. And when you go onto in the database and when you match evidence that's appropriate, you'll actually get prompts for the game. So I'm trying to think of an example that won't spoil it. But if you match an evidence that you got the fingerprint on a knife with maybe the fingerprint of a suspect's car door that you managed to track down and locate, it'll actually pop up with a prompt saying, "Warning: arrest suspect. Confirmation that this suspect was at this."
Oh, that's funny.
So it's when you see that and all that hard work, those last hour has paid off. It's a feeling where you get up and you're shaking because I haven't had that in a game before. So yeah, I hope that players that get this game and play this game have many feelings like that, many moments like that, because that's really something cool. So.
Very awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to show us Detective today. And thank all of you for watching at home. Stay tuned all week long. We're going to be showing off coverage throughout Gen Con 2018. But signing off for now, I'm Matt. Thanks again, everyone, and thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.